Hey guys, it's Daniel. Welcome back.
The following is from Jim Morrison, Life Death Legend by Stephen Davis. I have a lot of Doors and specifically Jim Morrison videos on my channel. If you want to help me make more videos, the best way to do so is to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Quote, June 1969. Jim Morrison sat with Rolling Stone's Jerry Hopkins for a crucial interview that portrayed him as a changed man when it was published the following month. The text gave the impression that Jim Morrison, lurid, stoned, erotic politician, had been replaced by James Douglas Morrison, a thoughtful veteran poet with something to say. Of all his interviews, this one, published July 26, 1969, came closest to portraying what was actually on Jim's mind. It also repositioned the Doors lead singer as a rational artist in the wake of the disaster in Miami earlier that year. Jim was initially reluctant to talk to Rolling Stone. He thought the paper's coverage of Miami and its aftermath had made him look like a fool or a clown. But his record label and the Doors publicist talked him into it. The paper's editor sweetened the deal by agreeing to publish some of Jim's new poems. Hopkins' interview took place over several sessions at the band's office, the nearby bar The Palms, and the phone booth, where Jim drank rounds of Boilermakers, shots of whiskey, and chaser glasses of beer. Jim told Hopkins that America needed something like a national Mardi Gras, when a lord of misrule would govern the land for a day. As he had during his recent TV appearance, Jim wanted to talk about the future of music, and predicted several coming trends: world music, punk, and techno. Obviously, there will be a new synthesis, like Indian music, African music, Eastern music, electronic music. Some brilliant kid will come along and be popular. I can see a lone artist with a lot of tapes and electronics, like an extension of the Moog synthesizer, a keyboard with the complexity and richness of a whole orchestra. There's somebody out there working in a basement, just inventing a whole new musical form. We'll hear about it in a few years. Cue techno 25 years later. During this same interview for Rolling Stone in June of 1969, Jim Morrison told writer Jerry Hopkins about the Rock is Dead session in February. The initial flash is over, the thing they call rock, which used to be called rock and roll. It got decadent. And then there was the rock revival sparked by the English. That went very far. It was articulate. Then it became self-conscious and incestuous, which I think is the death of any movement. The energy is gone. There is no longer a belief. I think the kids that are coming along next aren't going to have much in common with what we feel. They're going to create their own unique sound. So maybe after the Vietnam War is over, it'll probably take a couple of more years. It's hard to say, but maybe the deaths will end and there will be a need for a new life force to express and assert itself. End quote. Asked to name musicians he liked as a kid, Jim was both reticent and expansive. It's like the way I feel about writers. I can't single any one out. Really, I think we're an incredible gifted country in popular music, incredibly rich. Think of the people who came out of America in the last 10 to 20 years. You know, down the road, it's going to be interesting to look back on blues and rock. It happens so fast. From a historical vantage point, it'll look like the troubadour period in France. I'm sure it will look incredibly romantic. The interviewer, Jerry Hopkins, must have looked bemused, but Jim was serious about his pride in his generation. Well, look at us, Jim said, pursuing his point. We're incredible, man. I guess I mean people who ride motorcycles and have fast cars and interesting clothes, who are saying things, expressing themselves honestly. Young people. So yeah, it seems romantic to me. I'm pleased to be alive at this time. It's incredible. I think we're going to look very good to future people because so many changes are taking place and we're really handling it with a flair. Hopkins asked what songs Jim liked. I'll tell you the truth, Jim said. I don't listen to that stuff, rock music, much. I like singing blues, those free, long blues trips where there's no specific beginning or end. It just gets into a groove, and I can just keep making up things. Everybody's soloing. I like that kind of song rather than just a song. You know, just starting on a blues trip and seeing where it takes us. Jim felt differently about the allure of poetry. Quote, it's so eternal. As long as there are people, they can remember words and combinations of words. Nothing else can survive a Holocaust but poetry and songs. So long as there are human beings, songs and poetry can continue. Hopkins asked Jim about his parents. Why had he claimed they were dead? I just didn't want to involve them, I guess. I said my parents were dead as some kind of joke. I have a brother too, but I haven't seen him in about a year. I don't see any of them. This is the most I've said about this. At the end of the sessions, when prompted for any further topics he'd like to cover, the interviewer noted Jim's reputation as a heavy juicer, and he replied, on a very basic level, I love drinking liquids, but I can't see drinking milk or water or Coca-Cola. You have to have wine or beer to complete a meal. Getting drunk, you're in complete control up to a point. It's your choice every time you take a sip. You have a lot of small choices. It's like the difference between suicide and slow capitulation. When asked to explain, Jim said, "I don't know, man. Let's go next door and get a drink." The last page of the published interview was taken up with 4 long stanzas of an early version of an American prayer. Quote, "Do you know we are being led to slaughters by placid admirals, and that slow, fat generals are getting obscene on young blood? When the true king's murderers are allowed to roam free, 100 magicians arise in the land." This was the first time that any rock star had published a work of poetry in a national publication. At the end of 170 lines of often rhyming verse, the poems were credited, "Copyright 1969, James Douglas Morrison."